Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only Black Talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
Love you. Love you.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., and welcome to Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. For most of America, it's Hump Day, but not for us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It is Wealthy Wednesdays with S. Todd Yeary. Doctor, has a PhD, law degree. He's a pastor, a minister, but he is also ATC. I'll come to that in just a moment. S. Todd Yeary is the principal of the Yeary Firm, a Maryland-based litigation and government relations firm, and also serves as senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church of Baltimore and affiliates. Dr. Yeary is also the former executive director of the Rainbow Push Coalition. He does social justice work, which includes having served on the National Board National Action Network from 2015 to 21, past political action chair for the Maryland State Conference NAACP, as co-founding principal of Community Churches for Community Development, and a founding principal of SALT, a faith-based public policy collaborative that works on regional and national empowerment strategies impacting disaffected communities. Todd Yeary is my great friend, but ATC, let's talk about that for one moment. ATC stands for Air Traffic Controller. In addition to his outstanding resume, Todd has an insight on what's taking place in Newark, what took place on the Potomac, the shortages, all that goes into creating and training an air traffic controller. And we're going to talk about that today because African Americans need to know some of the hurdles that we've had to overcome just to be in the air traffic controlling positions. Reverend Yeary, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Listen, the more you read that resume, the more I try to figure out who are you talking about. But I'm glad to be able to hang out. I'm glad to be able to hang out.
I'm particularly excited that that you're here. Reverend Yeary, you have some insights on what's taking place in Newark, the national slowdown, all that goes into training an air traffic controller, and even when the tragic accident occurred over the Potomac, the first thing President Donald Trump said is we've got to get the DEI hires out of the air traffic controlling business, meaning any black air traffic controllers got to go. Well, soon as he said that, I got a call from Dr. Yeary, and he said, did I ever tell you I'm an air traffic controller? I said, no. Is there anything that you don't do? Todd, tell us what's going on at Newark and around the country and around the world.
Well, always grateful to be able to have these conversations. Here's what's going on. Let's call this real talk. In the backdrop, you have a problem that is manifesting in 2025 reality, but it actually emerges from a 1981 action. In the summer of 1980, the lead up to the 1980 presidential election, the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization, PATCO, was anticipating that they might go out on strike. Then candidate Ronald Reagan said he would support the controllers. The controllers decided not to go. They supported Ronald Reagan in the 1980 election, and then President Ronald Reagan fired them in August of 1981 when he did not follow through on the commitments he had made just the year prior. The firing of about 11,000 air traffic controllers threw the entire air traffic control system into flux. And here we are now, a generation later. Those controllers who hired in to backfill those controllers, I was one among them, are now reaching the mandatory retirement age of 56. And so what you see is drastic attrition and an aging infrastructure that is impacting what we see in terms of air travel. And the dynamic, as you will know as a member of Congress, what happens when appropriations don't meet their intended purpose. And so what we're playing is catch up with a 40-year-old problem. That's the short version, but we'll be able to certainly talk about the specifics of Newark and other places. But I think it's important that we understand this did not just happen. It's been happening over time.
When I ran for Congress, I want to share with you some of my thoughts about the role that airports play in the confusion that is taking place at Newark and around the country. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, Dr. S. Todd Yeary is our very special guest, also an air traffic controller.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music. You really about to do it? Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
Who among us doesn't like black music? But Kendrick is right. This moment is so much bigger than music. These are serious times. We've got serious problems, and we need serious people who understand that slogans are not solutions. When you want substantial and sober analysis about things that matter to you and the ones you love, this is where you turn. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Member Week is here at Lowe's. Don't miss your chance to get up to 40% off hundreds of items like paint, outdoor and home essentials, and more. Shop our exclusive deals happening in-store and online now through May 14th. Not a rewards member? Join for free today and get ready to save more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon weave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach your lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Chuck McDowell here. If you were misled or lied to in any way when buying a timeshare, right now is your wake-up call. With the tariffs, economy tanking, and inflation rising, you might need to ask yourself this question. Is owning a timeshare a good idea? With all the economic uncertainty, you need to protect yourself and your family. Don't look back and say, if I'd have only got rid of that stupid timeshare they lied to me about. It's time to stop thinking about canceling your timeshare and finally get rid of it and be smart with your money. At Wesley Financial Group, we've saved 48,000 families an average of $65,000 in lifetime payments. Give us a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare permanently or you'll pay nothing.
Call Wesley for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-954-3322. 800-954-3322. 800-954-3322.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., our very special guest, our regular guest on the politics of our faith on Wednesdays is Reverend Dr. S. Todd Yeary. Reverend Yeary, welcome forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Always good to be with you. I'm always intrigued by what we might talk about.
Todd, just before we get back to air traffic controllers, I want to share with everyone where I am. I'm in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. I got up at 3 o'clock this morning in Chicago to drive to Princeton, New Jersey, where the executive producer of our show, Gina Towns, is graduating on Saturday with her master's degree in theology in social justice. Kudos to Gina for that magnificent accomplishment. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to Princeton in enough time, so I pulled over to the Hampton Inn in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, where the general manager, Amy Simpson, has allowed me in the pool area to have our show. And I am extremely, extremely grateful for that. Reverend Yeary, let's get back to this idea of the air traffic controllers. What's going on?
I know I can see why you're relaxed. You're sitting by the pool. Now that makes some sense to me.
And I still got 5 hours to drive. I still got 5 hours when the show is over.
Well, you got some driving to do, and certainly kudos to Gina on this achievement. Look, here's what's going on. Technology is constantly changing. Government's response to technology changing is often much slower. And so the air traffic control system has had a number of fits and starts with upgrades to some of the hardware infrastructure, whether it's radar scopes or radio communications. All of those things have lagged, but the system is actually built up on redundancies. And so what has occurred is actually the maintaining of the safety of the air traffic system, the national airspace system, without the needed infrastructure investments. And so what we've heard, the reauthorization of the FAA in 2024, a big piece of legislation that's several hundred pages long, began to make clear that there needed to be investment and the appropriations should begin to flow in that direction. Unfortunately, we had the midair tragedy at Reagan Airport on January 29th, and that brought, I think, a new level of focus, not only on the equipment, but also on the procedures. And it was in the aftermath of that, as you noted in the first segment, the president kind of highlighted and scapegoated this notion of the boogeyman called DEI being at the root of what led to the tragic loss of dozens of people, not only on the commercial aircraft, but on the helicopter, the Army helicopter as well. And so all of those persons perished, and there was this immediate scrutiny. So we're looking at Washington. And then, of course, we had a number of other aviation-related incidents that were not tied to air traffic control, but there appeared to be equipment issues. And so the pressure's building. And so a few weeks ago, we hear about this temporary radar outage of about 90 seconds, where controllers were not able to see aircraft at the Philadelphia Terminal Radar Approach Control. We call it the TRACON. That is now the airport facility that lines up flights for Newark Airport. And so the outage was not at the airport. It was at the facility that feeds the airport. And it's led to a lot of concern because not being able to see airplanes that are not on a published route where you should know where they are, even if you can't see them, has become a concern. Net, there's been a lot of this conversation, these outages, however modest and temporary they might be, but what no one's really telling you is that you will have temporary delays in radar transitions periodically, just like on your smartphone. When you get an update, you have to update the software. And so there'll be a period of time in the update where the phone actually cuts off. Well, in air traffic control, there's a backup system, so you don't have that delay. But when you bring the primary radar system back up, there might be a delay. But the controllers know how to know where the traffic was, where the traffic's going, and how to make sure that we don't have any critical loss of safety margin in that process. Unfortunately, this administration has used it as a new opportunity to make some accusations against the prior administration, even though the administration prior to the administration, had the same problem that didn't get resolved then either. But they've made a 3-year promise that they're going to rebuild the entire air traffic control system, which not only is that a noble notion, it is also very unrealistic. And so we're having these conversations so that the public can know when, quite honestly, while there's a legitimate concern, some of this feels a bit like getting hustled, that I can do this quickly and I can do it faster. And so 3 years is a convenient window. It's not necessarily the realistic window to rebuild the system.
Let me opine for a moment, just for a moment. When I ran for Congress in 1995, the FAA made an announcement that they needed to build 10 new airports the size of O'Hare Airport in Chicago. Somewhere in the country, out of the airspace of O'Hare, airports all over the country occupy and function from an airspace. When you take off from New York, Newark, or Washington, D.C., you're already landing in Chicago. You got to get in line to fly into Chicago Airport. And that's true of every airport in the nation. And I want to make this unilateral, perfectly clear declaration. When I drove this morning from Chicago to Monroeville, Pennsylvania, on my way to Princeton, I've seen all of Joe Biden's money. In Ohio on the highways. I saw it in Pennsylvania on the highways. It's still on the highways. I'm watching workers work, and I didn't see a single African-American pouring concrete on a highway. The number one public works project that employs Black people is aviation. Not necessarily in the cockpit, yes, as flight attendants, but people who fly into Chicago, who fly into LAX, they stay at a hotel somewhere for the most part. And Black folks are making up those beds. They're supporting those conferences. They're cooking 24-hour room service. They're serving the drinks. They are Ubering to and from the airport. Airports are the single largest public works project that generates jobs in the Black community. They're UPS jobs, they're FedEx jobs, they're cargo jobs, because they're mail jobs and post office workers who get the mail from the airport and deliver it to our front doors. When you break down all that one plane landing represents, it functions in the service-based economy, not the information and the technology-based economy. It functions in the service-based economy, and Black folk work in the service-based economy from sea to shining sea in the United States. So when Newark is not working, when Chicago's not working, or when we're not building new airports in different airspaces that allow for the creation of new jobs, African Americans overwhelmingly suffer from the absence of those safe air facilities. And so I can't begin to tell you how important this public works project, fixing the aviation towers, fixing the air traffic control problem, and building new airports that benefit African Americans because of the services that we perform that are tied to conventions, to sports, to getting in and out of cities around this country. Without an airport, there simply wouldn't be a Black middle class. Reverend Uri? I think Reverend Uri has frozen, but I do want to comment on his thinking about what is taking place in aviation. When Donald Trump said that this accident that occurred over the Potomac, he painted the problem black, as if African Americans are not qualified to, one, fly planes. African Americans are not qualified to land planes or give instructions. It's just not true. When Reverend Uri's system comes back up, he's going to share with you that it took him 10 weeks of initial training, another 3 years of certified training to work his way to the air traffic controlling tower. And before Brown versus the Board of Education, the Civil Rights Act, and the Second Reconstruction Equal Employment Opportunity legislation, there were simply no Blacks whatsoever in those air traffic control towers. And we're talking jobs that are 150, 180, and based upon your seniority, as high as $250,000 a year. Reverend Uri?
Well, Congressman, you're spot on. Let me kind of give you a bit of history from my own background. I'm not just a former air traffic controller. I'm a kid of two former air traffic controller parents. When my father enlisted in the United States Air Force, back then they would assign certain jobs to you. Obviously, they would try to figure out race without asking. My father was a very fair-skinned Black man. They didn't know what he was. And so he actually had an opportunity to be an air traffic controller in the United States Air Force. And after serving his period of enlistment in Vietnam, he came back and started working for the FAA in 1969 or so. That's how he got in. When the strike happens in 1981, as now we're starting to see more opportunities open up to people who had been historically excluded, I was amongst a class that was not very diverse. At that time, the workforce when I worked was 90% white, 10% everybody else, including Black folk. When I graduated from the FAA Academy, the initial air traffic control course, according to one of the co-lead instructors there, I was the first Black honor graduate they had ever had in the FAA Academy's history in that air traffic screen. So this isn't what I'm coming to naively. I've grown up on air traffic control, the ins and the outs and the ups and the downs. And so when the president started touting this, it's a DEI hire issue, I immediately started reaching out saying, no, that's not the case. And without actually having to say much, if somebody were to look at my face, then they would obviously know that I'm not a white guy. Even today, the controller workforce is still overwhelmingly white to the tune of about 80% or so. And the push to diversify the controller workforce was efforts from folks that trained me. I participated in it, just making folks aware that air traffic control is a career, and it's a career, wait for it now, that does not require a degree. There are multiple paths that you can get there. You can come straight from the military, if there's military preference for controllers. You can take the civil service entrance exam. It was paper and pencil when I took it. It's now electronic. And then some folks go to community colleges. So the pathways are there. The awareness is not. And so part of this larger conversation about what's going on is there's a reason why we're hearing what we're hearing, because if you're going to hire several thousand new controllers, this administration wants that controller workforce to have a certain appearance.
And I can't share with everyone enough that when I went to North Carolina A&T State University, other than Tuskegee, African Americans were not directed towards the aviation industry. We've heard about the Tuskegee Airmen. We've talked about the Tuskegee Airmen. Certainly we've been pilots. Certainly we've been heroic in wars from the inception of the Republic to the present in the Air Force. But air traffic controllers, managers of airports, the commissions that run airports and spend tens of millions of dollars in contracting at airports. I know several African-American businessmen who are responsible for buses that move people from terminals to parking lots. These are very successful people in line and doing businesses that we don't normally think about. And it requires our political consciousness and awareness to recognize that these guys have been passing these contracts on to their family, their friends. That's how they end up in air traffic controller jobs. You don't have to have a college degree, but you do have to have the various paths of training that Reverend Yeary, Dr. Yeary, has talked and shared with us about today. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, we're going to pivot to loving our neighbors as ourselves. I asked Reverend Yeary before he came on today to answer the question, with 74,000 South African pro-apartheid families coming to the United States, are you really asking me to love them as I love myself? I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he's fixing policies left by former Governor Andrew Cuomo, including efforts to close illegal cannabis shops.
I had to clean up a lot of the stuff that the former governor did.
This comes as a recent poll shows Cuomo leading the mayor's race with 37% of likely Democratic primary voters. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene's call to pardon Derek Chauvin drew backlash from the Georgia NAACP, who called it a, quote, grave misunderstanding of justice, end quote. They say his conviction was based on clear evidence and a pardon would dishonor victims of police violence. And former Black Atlanta Mayor Andrew Young was honored with the National Jewish Health Humanitarian Award. Current Black Mayor Andre Dickens and former Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is also Black, joined others in celebrating his lifelong service and civil rights legacy. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast. Oh my God. But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on! On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, call the bomb.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There'll be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Took the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
Love you. Love you.
The Comedy Connection series featuring KBLA's Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady. We're going to transform relationship disasters into stand-up material live at Inglewood's Miracle Theater on May 31st at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My clinical team will disclose all of your dating woes, while the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady, has hand-selected supremely talented comedians to roast all of our tragic relationship choices. I dare you to bring your ex's phone number, because Ray, he's going to text it live, and the crowd will be sourcing emojis. Tickets are moving swiftly, so don't hesitate to grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before I diagnose your dating history as a pre-existing condition.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays and the Politics of Our Faith with Dr. S. Todd Yeary. Dr. Yeary, welcome forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm glad to be here. I see you getting ready to pivot. This is about to get real serious. So let me
sit up straight. This is dead serious, because I really want you to share with us your thoughts on the new African Americans who live right next door to us. They're Africans. They've been given protected refugee status in the United States. They're about to become our neighbors unless they're all moving to Forsyth County, Georgia. And they're going to come here demanding protections that we fought for as if they are some kind of discriminated and protected class of citizens. And it's not unusual or unlikely that the Supreme Court might grant them a particular special protected status. Just remains to be seen. Dr. Yuri, tell us about our new neighbors and how we love them.
Well, let's talk about the new neighbors. These are Dutch white South Afrikaners who, according to this president, who is known to engage in either revisionist history or historical erasure, has somehow identified this specialized oppression that has fallen to this group as a result of the self-governance of Black South African leadership. And the issue is that this president has said they had their lands taken, and therefore they have experienced a great injustice, and therefore they should be granted refugee status.
Their lands taken in Africa.
Listen. I just delivered the mail. I didn't write the letter. I'm just telling you. This, you got to have you have to have some grounded imagination when you hear these stories. But let's just be clear on how this even came up. We have advising the president, whom the president celebrates and tries to imitate. The director of Doge, we think he's still the director of Doge until he found out that the board of his company was posting job ads for somebody to take his place. Let's remember that Mr. Musk is of Dutch South African lineage. He comes to the United States after getting a visa to Canada, and then from Canada to the United States, and then he goes through the naturalization process. And so in this backdrop is my question, this issue. We get a specialized hurt. Where have we seen this before? It's like reverse discrimination for white folks, when if you reverse discrimination, there is no discrimination. And since you're the ones that are actually controlling most of the system, how is it that now you have this specialized harm that carves out a new legal definition that applies only to you? And so what the president is doing is he's carving out new law for this specialized harm, but he's really making a larger point. Remember, he is deporting, in some instances, exporting in others, persons of color, whether that follows due process or not, because there has been this very recent issue and concern about the browning of America, where by 2040, give or take, the majority of the population will be non-white. And so this now push, we want you to make more babies. We want you to have more children. Now we're at the highest level of population in this young nation's history, but now we need more kids. What does that look like, and where are they going? They're certainly not going to be raised to take Black jobs that are supposedly being encumbered upon by brown people. And so this new issue is let's highlight and signal. This is really what this is. This is a signal to a particular group of this president's base to say, I'm all down for the white cause. And so when you talk about loving my neighbor, the first thing I'm asking, your neighbor is a part of a community. Which community are we talking about? Does it include me? Is this really my neighbor? Or is this somebody that just gonna live somewhere else at my expense, where now they get a specialized privilege? That's how race developed in this country in the first place. And he is reinventing race in a whole new way by assaulting DEI and saying, basically, the Supreme Court said we don't have these issues anymore in the UNC and Harvard cases. And therefore, we can then twist the narrative and say it's really white people who have been oppressed by Black people, and therefore we upstanding white people have to look out for our own. That is really what's going on, and it's happening at the expense of the entire U.S. Population, including Black and brown people. So it's a curious question indeed.
Reverend Uri, the protected status allows them citizenship. It allows them to register and vote. It allows them to run for political office and get elected and represent geographic areas throughout the United States for the purposes of political representation. And with that, they bring their experience. Of course, their children, if they're born in the United States, can run for president of the United States in the first generation of these new immigrants who have a certain political point of view about Black Africans. And we can only imagine that has some kind of cross transatlantic impact for African Americans and what they think about us. So my question is, the rights and privileges that are being extended to white South African Afrikaners took us 250 years to attain in this system, and they get them simply with a protected refugee status.
Yeah, and that assumes that we've even gotten the status, as we have seen with this administration. The first thing that they've done is they pulled the Justice Department back from enforcement of anti-discrimination law. Basically, they are saying we don't see a discrimination problem, and so therefore we have recast this notion of being race neutral, and therefore we can turn our attention somewhere else. But the power, and this is where the immigration status comes up. Immigration has been a hot button topic for decades, and there's been great reluctance to shore up immigration law so that the processes are more efficient and the resources are there to assist people who are coming here under refugee status or seeking asylum from oppression in other countries. Many of those countries are destabilized, partly because that's part of the foreign policy of the United States, whether it's by economic influence or military presence. And so when we look at what is happening here, the protected status simply by executive order and fiat is a signal, right? In some instances, the dog whistle has been about us, right? They're calling out this issue that somehow or other Black folks offend the needs and the credibility of the country. But on the other hand, this president is saying, I'm your guy to set up processes. I'll make sure that white foreigners who really have no claim, the issue of having their land stolen is not documented. But at the same time, I'm going to go Boeing 747 gift shopping and see what else I can get while I'm traveling on the U.S. dime.
I'm definitely talking about that when we come back. But I want to be clear, that status was reserved, for example, for the Congolese. It was reserved for the Haitians. It was reserved for people who qualified. It was reserved for the Kenyans. It was reserved for people who are yearning to breathe free, who are facing famine, who need malaria shots and pills and the best possible medical care in the world here in the United States. And they're giving it to people who simply don't need it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, Dr. S. Todd Yeary, Wealthy Wednesdays. We're going to talk about these gifts at the White House, and we're also going to talk and close on a word of hope. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Imagine every pregnant person in LA County having the support they deserve. A doula on every block. Doulas provide emotional, physical, and informational support during pregnancy, through labor, and beyond. Medi-Cal now covers doula care. That means you can get the support you need or train to support families in your community. The LA County Medi-Cal Doula Hub is here to help. Learn more and get started today at ladoulahub.com.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to
scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement. Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest on Wealthy Wednesdays is Dr. S. Todd Eury. Dr. Eury, welcome forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Always good to be with you. It's getting hot in here. Come on, let's deal with it.
Dr. Eury, listen now. $400 million Palace in the Skies aircraft given to Donald Trump through the government personally. I went to prison for using, according to the government, $750,000 over a 10-year period, $75,000 a year. Not taxpayer funds, not negotiated between people who supported me, not negotiated as a quid pro quo. I just lived in my campaign funds. I called being in Washington a business expense. Okay, guilty. I own my behavior. I own that. Bob Menendez is in prison today for accepting gifts and bribes. That's what they call it. There seems to be a normalization, Governor Blagojevich, trading on an FBI wiretap for political favors, for political support. I've never done that, ever. But I did live in my campaign funds. But now there's a normalization of members of Congress, members of the Senate, and certainly at the very top, Supreme Court justices accepting gifts and ruling on cases. And now the grift from the President of the United States. Your thoughts on the normalization of the grift?
There's a famous answer to a question during a deposition of a former president. I can't remember the question. I remember the answer. The answer was, it depends on what the definition of the word is. When you're redefining basic language, grift is really generosity. The president says if somebody wants to give you a nice gift, you should accept it, especially when this transaction is part of his official negotiation. The Supreme Court has endorsed whatever wayward behavior he might put forward, as long as it's part of presidential duties. I'm not sure where in those duties being able to negotiate this kind of transfer beyond what's already in statute might occur, but that's what you have. It's the same process that this Supreme Court has said that, some payments to elected officials are not really bribes, they're gratuities. And what distinguishes the two of them is when they're given, right? It's something as asinine as that. And so what you have is an enabling of this president to contradict all of the norms that weren't even normal to begin with. We've had to push them in that direction. We've had to push racial justice. We've had to push accountability in government. And yet the court will allow the legal definition of a corporation to be included as a person. And those who are legally persons get treated like they're property. Well, where have we seen this movie before? And so, unfortunately, we don't have to think back in time. We've actually gone back in time, where he's acting much like a monarch, but in this notion of controlling the transfer of wealth. Here's what we've got. He would say, white South Africaners coming to this country. Actually, if you read the data, they're doing better in post-apartheid South Africa than they were doing beforehand. And yet the contradiction here is that we couldn't get 40 acres and a mule, and reparations makes well-meaning liberal white folks break out in a rash. But nobody talks about the 1.6 million white families who got 160 acres under the Homestead Act, and all they had to do was agree to live on the land for 5 years and they would get the deed to it. And so public policy has been a legal way to transfer racial wealth. And then the government gets to deny accountability, or at least restitution and parity, for those who got left out. He's playing the game right in front of our very faces. And the challenge has to be, what's the accountability? That's where you've got to get some folks with some spine and some courage on the legislative branch who are not just doing his bidding and actually getting punked by the president to be able to hold him accountable. Otherwise, it's not just getting the airplane, it's what other nice little trinkets are going to be in the airplane when he gets it.
That's right.
And the fact that he wants to use it for military service as the presidential aircraft. Well, good luck with that one too. By the time they strip it down to the skids to make sure that the airplane is clean and it meets military standards, he could have waited the time out and bought a whole other airplane. So it's going to be an interesting conversation, but it's more of the behavior. The first 100 days have been a roller coaster ride, and it's only been 100 days. What are we going to do?
I'm sitting here somewhat dumbfounded by the idea that we have gone from the presidency of the United States as a servant leadership based position to the businessman model, the right to engage in this kind of radical transactionalism, personal transactions, and both sides are doing it. We're not unmindful of the fact that Hunter Biden was in Ukraine. That's a long way from home, with a laptop, doing business with the Ukrainians. We're not unmindful of that. We're not unmindful of the Trump family in Russia, in various parts of the Middle East and the $600 billion deal that they just signed. We're not unmindful of that. Reverend, it seems to be rampant, and it's taking place in both political parties. Share with us your thoughts. Give us a word of hope, because it is certainly a demoralizing era that we are living in today.
Well, scriptures declare a little leaven leavens the whole loaf. You don't need blood alcohol content over a certain amount to be toxic, right? We've got a toxicity in our politics that can only be reined in by full engagement of the real political class, and that's the people. As long as the folks who have the money continue to assert it because they don't anticipate that the people are going to participate and hold them accountable, then this just becomes business as usual. Servant leadership becomes self-serving leadership, and that's what we have come to see. But here's what I will say as a word of hope, and the hope is tied not in terms of our emotion, but in terms of our action. What are we going to do when it comes to loving one's neighbor, as we talked about? The response from the master teacher Jesus, he says, whoever does my Father's will, right? That's who's in the community here. And what is that will? That we would do justice, not just talk about it, but be about it. And so we need to be ready up and down the ballot at every level of government to be able to elect those who are responsible, but also ethical in terms of recognizing that government of, for, and by the people is not an invitation to exploit the people, but actually to take care of them. And so unless we demand the accountability, we endorse then the harm that's coming to us. And this isn't really so much about getting a word of hope. It's really about building a level of disgust that says enough is enough, and we need to go into a campaign of throw the bums out, and let's identify who the bums are. At the end of the day, God does not require of us to let everybody go along simply because they can. It is an invitation that if they're not right, redemption is a process, but if redemption is refused, accountability is required. And so let's make sure that we're serious about redeeming those who are legitimately and honestly, authentically looking to reclaim the trajectory of their lives. But for those who continue to give us more of the same and say, get with it or just like it, that's not who we are. Do justice, love mercy, and remember, we all must walk humbly with our God. That's not just hope, that's commitment. And so be committed in this moment, and we will go from there.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Until next time.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.